Oh yeah, it's a Philly chair. You can tell just looking at it. And look, they have to tell people not to sit in it though. Do not sit in the Philly chair.
Well, I mean,
It'll haunt you for all time. You'll regret it. Hello there, this is Brian, Pepper, and Maverick, and welcome to another outdoor adventure. Hello everybody, and welcome to our 5th episode of Exploring New England. In this episode, we're going to be spending our first full day on Nantucket Island, where we really, unfortunately, started raining, as you can see here, but we still made the best of it, going through our downtown, and I'm going to talk about some of the places we saw and how much we enjoyed them. So before we get started, let's go ahead and click that like button and subscribe for future content. It really does help out the channel. So to start the day here, Pepper and I decided to fuel up at our new favorite little, I guess you call it a restaurant, or maybe food stand down in Nantucket, and that is called Stubby's. We discovered this as we walked in, looking for, breakfast in the downtown, and oh my god, they make the most amazing breakfast sandwiches. We loved it so much, we actually came here every single morning for breakfast. As you can see, they're a little pricey for breakfast, but I think that's just about everything is pricey in Nantucket, so not too surprising there. I actually recommend going to like little local areas like this. We sat down in the cafe, and as we went throughout the week, we actually talked to some locals and got some really interesting insights on the local history and culture. Our next stop, as you see here, is to the, the first tourist trap you walk into when coming off of the steamship ferries over here. But here's the thing, if you're going to go to a tourist trap, this place, I think it's called the Sunken ship, is the place to go to. It's actually run by locals, and they're really friendly and helpful. And they actually have a lot of unique items in here. It wasn't like we just walked into, your generic tourist site shop that has the same thing at every single place. We saw some truly unique things in here. We saw some awesome gifts. As with everything in this whole town, everything's a little bit pricey, but gosh, they have just about everything. Actually, they have some semi-serious stuff too. If you're looking, maybe you forgot some hiking equipment or some surfing stuff. I'm not saying this is going to get your best of the best, but they probably have something that can hook you up. And of course, we did our due diligence checking out everything. Of course, we picked up a couple gifts for some friends and family in here to take back with us. But overall, just had a fantastic time exploring this little shop. Alright, so after finishing up our scoping out of the Sunken ship for gifts later in the week and picking up some handy umbrellas, we headed over across the street to the Whaling Museum. Bonus for us, it was free admission today. So we went ahead, checked in, and got exploring. And I can't recommend this place enough.
I need one of these. In the old movies, if you notice, they have a way of holding them, where they hold both pieces up at their head. So this was used to transmit the first spoken message through the submarine telephone cable from Nantucket to the mainland. And the cable is cut from the Nantucket end by Harry B. Turner, Esquire.
So for those unaware, the island in Nantucket is about 30 miles out to sea, and among its many claims to fame, it was actually once the whaling capital of the world. And as whaling came to a decline, it then transformed itself into the relaxing attraction and retreat that it is today. So this first haul here basically documents the history of the island. It talks about how the island was settled by Europeans beginning in the mid-17th century, and how it began to balloon with the growing whaling industry, of which Nantucket became the whaling capital of the world for a period of time, until it basically came to a collapse around the Civil War, when their ships were destroyed and the whaling industry moved to other ports with better access to the mainland. So from here we go into the lower main hall, which is called Gosnow Hall, and it delves directly into the whaling industry. If you didn't realize this, Nantucket formed the inspiration and backdrop for the novel Moby Dick. And we spent some time in this section watching videos and working through the interactive exhibits, of which there are many. And you can't help but notice the whale skeleton in this hall, which itself carries a really amazing story. It goes that in 1998, a sperm whale died on their local eastern beach, and the community came together to honor this whale by providing him a pivotal position in this museum. The story itself is both heartbreaking and gripping, and I definitely recommend just taking some time to watch the in-museum documentary on this, and it really explains it so well. From Gosnell Hall, we next made our way into the old Hadwin and Barney oil and candle factory, which walked you basically through the commercial side of the whaling industry. And it displayed oils, candles, more, and talked about the process. When I personally thought about whaling in the past, I looked at the whale meat as the primary resource, with oil being secondary, but it was actually the other way around. James Cameron, very much into the ocean and whale conservation, but it's more than evident that a good portion of his Avatar 2 story draws from our whaling history. And after going through this museum and seeing that movie, it really struck home while watching that portion of the new movie out there. So, no spoilers I'm going to give, but, there actually almost is a tie-in here in many ways. So after making our way through the oil and candle factory, we entered the cultural section of the museum. This first area here documents Nantucket and how it fit into that wider world. Having the outreach that it did through whaling, this was actually quite extensive and really so interesting, just seeing all the different artifacts and just pieces of culture that they collected throughout the world. It also discussed the culture of its local inhabitants, including one of its most famous artisans, Jose Reyes. And he spent most of his life, he had actually, I think it was a master's in basket weaving. He created friendship baskets where he incorporated a lot of the culture into what he made. Overall, each of these pieces really seems to tell a story, and it gives you a greater insight into how cultural Nantucket really was, even though it was a center of an industrial area. Overall, this was a great experience. I can't recommend it enough. I would allow at least probably about 2 hours to make your way through the museum to take everything in. You could spend longer here, though. This museum makes great use of modern technology, and this really excels at telling the story of this island. And I really appreciate that, because stories are so much more powerful than artifacts of the past, right? And having this understanding, it really made me look at this island as more than just a vacation destination, but a place of real historical significance. And I just can't recommend it enough. From the museum, we grabbed our umbrella and headed back out to the wilds of downtown Nantucket. We headed south down Water Street, which leads you down to a Shaw supermarket in the downtown. We actually didn't notice that until our last day on the island, as we visited the larger one, which is Mid-Island. Took a look to see how much tickets were. We scoped out the downtown area, looking for possible shops we wanted to look at and visit over the coming days. Then we made our way onto Main Street here. Main Street is their main downtown shopping area. A lot of bookstores and interesting little shops. There's one here called Murray's, which we actually enjoyed quite a bit, which we visited in a later day. And while down here, we stopped at the old Nantucket Pharmacy. And in addition, of course, to all the usual fare that you'd find inside a pharmacy, they have their own fair share of a bunch of little trinkets and mementos. And as you can see to the left there's actually a nice little counter too, so if you're looking for maybe a cup of coffee, a small lunch, or a quick breakfast, it's a nice little place to just hop in and hop out without having to spend a lot of time somewhere. So overall, nice little quaint little pharmacy. So after grabbing all our stuff that we wanted to get, we headed back down to Main Street and back down to Water Street. And we sort of roamed around the downtown here, which is probably where everybody first starts out. Got our bearings straight and figured out where the visitor museum, not the visitor museum, the visitor center is. We thought it was here, then we realized you had to scoop back around here to the back. And I gotta say, these folks were really helpful, kind of giving us some, ideas on where to go, where to find things, and everything else, and really helpful people. Now, by this point, with our late start in the day, spending some time in the museum, and just wandering around, we were pretty tuckered out, so we decided to start calling it a day, heading back up the Chestnut Street into the Chestnut House, and basically just settling in and taking a break for the rest of the day. After all, this was a vacation. Overall, though, I have to say, the downtown, there's so much stuff to do. Definitely allow yourself some time to really explore different areas. It's not your traditional touristy area. It's actually more of a laid-back island, and I think that's a good way to look at Nantucket, is that if it reminded me of anything locally along Pennsylvania and New Jersey, it's probably a lot more like Cape May as opposed to like Ocean City or Wildwood or something along those lines. It's more of a laid-back, casual place where you can really just enjoy yourself and explore local areas. So, overall, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click like and subscribe for future content. It really does help out the channel. We try to upload as often as we can while working a busy full-time schedule. And we hope to see you in a future video. Well, there will be a couple more videos on Nantucket, which will be coming out over the next several weeks, so keep an eye out for those. And until we do see you, get out there, make your own great outdoor adventures. And as always, take care.